When you're Nick Shell, you never know where comments might actually show up. You'd think in your universe it would only be comment trees, but on a really windy day like today and it's hard to even hear and you've already tried to make the same video 7 times, sometimes Target will do the trick. You never know. You just look in the hat section and marvel, what's this? Oh wow, look at that. We have a comment. And by the way, I'm wondering if my acne right here is caused by my hair doing this. I'm starting to think it is. Except we do have this and this that happened, so I don't know, maybe it's something I ate or whatever. But we've got some business to tend to here at Target in Cool Springs, Tennessee, or whatever it is. Okay, I made some videos yesterday. The main one I want to address is judging others' receding hairlines based on our own. I got a couple comments from that, and what I find interesting is they have some similarities. So the first one was from RickRat01, who says this, quote, "I can't even watch television without noticing hairlines. It's like we develop hairline radar, a useless superpower." He goes on to say, "I actually spotted a wig on a coworker. I would have never noticed that had I not started losing my hair and started obsessively looking at hairlines," end quote. So you've got that, you just heard that. Now hear what Robert went on to say on the same video. This is what Robert said. Quote, "Sure, I do that," referring to judging others' receding hairlines based on some. "Sure, I do that. It's not a very productive habit, though. When the obsession was in overdrive, I went through Facebook out of curiosity to see what percentage of my high school classmates are balding. Roughly a third, about right," end quote. Now, of course, I think Robert's about 32 or 33. I'm 35, so we're going into mid-30s, early 30s. That's what he's saying is about right. So similarities that we see in that already is, he says, both of them, okay, look at this, hairline radar, a useless superpower, and he talks about obsessively looking through at hairlines, whereas Robert said it's not a very productive habit, and he uses the word obsession and overdrive. So what I see in common about both of these comments, what common about, with both these comments is, we're seeing common themes of useless, not productive, and obsession in regards to this habit of looking at other people's hairlines. Now, I totally relate. Now, I will always say that I'm not obsessed about losing my hair. That's honestly what I believe. However, it's a whole different thing if we're talking about this thing about being obsessed about receding hairlines. There's two different things. It's one thing to be aware of a receding hairline and others' receding hairlines in a non-judgmental way, just more of like, oh, it's just like, oh, that person's 6'4", they're tall. I'm 5'9", I'm not as tall as they are. That's more of an observation. Just like, for example, I like keeping up with knowing ethnicities of actors. It's completely pointless, but I know that David Schwimmer is 100% Jewish. I know that Courtney Cox, who played his sister on this show, which they're both supposed to be Jewish, she's not Jewish at all. That doesn't help anyone. It's useless, but I know it, and my head is full of trivia like that. I have a keen sense for noticing things like that, and there's a good chance if you're watching this video and you subscribe to my channel or you watch my videos regularly that you also are like me and Robert and RickRat01, and that we are very keen to observe receding hairlines. I mean, it's like even being here in Target. I was looking at an advertisement, and it was like this couple getting married, and the guy was like to the side. Well, from the side, it looks like I could tell his hairline on the side, his temples were going back even further than mine, but on the top, it looked like he had more. And like, I wouldn't have noticed that if I weren't so obsessed with evaluating hairlines. I think there's definitely a difference between being obsessed with your own hairline and like letting it like be a worry seed to you, like get the best of you and freak out and like affect your self-esteem. That's one thing. That's unhealthy, and that's what I'm here to help people overcome. However, if we're talking about this sort of underground culture here in which we are aware of receding hairlines and on ourselves and others, and we just evaluate that, and we notice things that other people wouldn't, like even now, like Steve Carell, we all can go back and watch season 1 or 2 of The Office and all say, wow, he was having a receding hairline going on, and we can see it here. Season 3, he had the hair transplant, it got fixed. So I don't think that that's unhealthy. I think it's just a curious little thing. Now, compare that to men in sports. Now, I'm not that big into sports. I saw the Super Bowl. I thought it was quite entertaining this year. But do I keep up with like college football and basketball? Do I know who won each game and the records of all these players? Think of how trivial that is. It's very trivial and unimportant in the grand scheme of the world. It's simply petty. Think of how many men keep up with that stuff, spend time and energy, and even spend money on memorabilia, probably here at Target. I don't. So, I mean, I think men are wired that way, to have these trivial superpowers. That's what we do. I think for many, it's sports. For others, it may be music. And I have those. I mean, like I said, I'm obsessed with knowing the heights of actors. I'm obsessed with knowing their ethnicities. And yeah, I'm obsessed with keeping up with hairlines in a non-judgmental way. Honestly, in a non-judgmental way. I just think it's interesting because, just like with height, you don't know how tall or short you're going to be. You also don't know how much hair you're going to end up with and for how long. That's fascinating, actually. Now, let me close this long video by also looking at another comment, too, that I got on video ideas that aren't about hair loss. And I like something that Robert pointed out in there because I think it relates to all of this. And Robert said this: I would say, at this stage of your YouTube journey, you're probably best off dancing with the one who brought you here. The balding videos, end quote. So that's what Robert had to say. And I've looked through the comments, and what I've seen is the people who are the majority of my subscribers, they don't mind the obsessive videos about receding hairlines. They don't mind it. They're not getting offended by it. I think it's the more casual subscriber that happened to just watch up on short because they saw maybe even one of my other videos that wasn't even about hair loss, and they're expecting more random stuff like that. And then they're not getting it, and then they're the ones saying, you know, I want other stuff too. You're entertaining, what else do you got? While I would like to do that, I think probably the best way to go about this is to maybe once a week have one that's not about hair loss, if for no other reason, just to kind of have some feelers out there. Because I did one on finding the fuel gauge, or not the fuel gauge, the fuel pump release on a Mitsubishi Outlander. You would think that no one would care about that, and you probably didn't personally, but it's gained a lot of popularity in 4 months. So it's just good to have extra little investment properties out there, which I'll be doing one about how Southern am I. I'm going to be doing that one. I think that'll be fun. You may or may not watch it, but I like to just spice things up a little bit with other random stuff. But ultimately, I want, whereas I've always embraced the role of, you know, internet receding hairline guy, I think what we're learning today from these videos and from these comments is, wow, you so want these, don't you? Kitty swim trunks. You can currently get them at Target, $22.99. They could be yours. Last chance. Okay. But I think what I want to do is officially embrace the obsession. Again, not the obsession of, oh no, I'm losing my hair. No, that was long ago. I'm past that. Okay? Once you get over your hair loss and you accept that as your new identity and realize, hey, I'm a masculine guy and I've got all kinds of things I can focus on and control. My hair I can't, so what? I'm still a good-looking, attractive, confident guy, right? So I'm past all that. I'm not obsessed with that. I'm not obsessed with hair loss. I'm obsessed with just the general idea of hair loss and how it's a random thing that we cannot control. Therefore, it's interesting. We can't control our own ethnicity. Wouldn't we all agree? I can't control the fact that I'm a quarter Mexican or a quarter Italian. I had no say in that. I had no say in what last name I'd be born into. Also, I have no say in how much hair I'd end up with at age 35. That's simply fascinating. It's not unhealthy. I think it's just a cool underground movement. There's all kinds of underground movements, and this is part of them. And I'm the only guy on the internet who really embraces that. So really, how much more can I embrace my obsession with receding hairlines? Not freaking out about hair loss, but just every time you see an ad with a guy in it, I'm like, oh, well, let's look at his hairline. Well, looks like he's definitely got one better than me, but he's also younger than me. I mean, it's that kind of thinking. I say there's nothing wrong with it. I say I'm going to embrace it more than ever. Now, what over-the-top ways can I help embrace that? That's the question.